let's dive into Diego Pavia. Do we want to play the clip by Pavia? Do we have that available? Because there's something I wanted to address.
I don't have the clip available. I have the quote, but not the clip.
Okay, give me the quote.
So the quote, now let me pull up the exact quote because, I talked about this last week about what Diego Pavia said. And my take was he's delusional, but Dave might have a bit of a different take. But let's see. Diego Pavia basically said Vanderbilt will run the state of Tennessee. What's his exact quote? He said Vanderbilt will run Tennessee after this year, was the exact quote that Diego Pavia said. And then he said he believes that Vanderbilt can win a national championship.
Okay. Let me start with the first one. It's not going to be after this year. But let's not forget that General Neyland was hired to do what? Beat Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt was on the right side of that rivalry. So we're not talking about something historically that's just possible. If you want to talk about 25 years from now, I'm not going to rule that out. But you're going to have, what would have to happen? You would have to have a new stadium. There's only so much you can do to polish that. But you'd have to have a new stadium. You'd have to have improved facilities. They're doing a lot of that. And I can't help but wonder how much money may be tucked away. And I'll give you a little bit of insight. My cousin did my hip replacement. He's one of the top orthopedic surgeons in the Southeast. I went to Vanderbilt. Does not just do well, Caleb. We're talking about a whole different level from what you and I would probably think is doing well financially. I can't help but think that there's a bajillion dollars out there among all of their alums. So if they decide to be Vanderbilt fans because they're raised there, and we've seen a lot of Tennessee Titans fans who decided to be Titans fans because they were raised there. You were one because you saw them for the first time right in the Liberty Bowl.
Yep.
We have seen people make that transition. Again, I think that it's a long ways to go, but I wouldn't completely rule it out. And it'll be Bank on It, brought to you by Commercial Bank. So, Caleb, you tell me why I'm crazy.
Commercial Bank is your neighborhood bank. What makes us different from other banks? We understand that every customer has unique opportunities, challenges, and financial concerns. We don't expect you to fit into the same box as the next person or business. Whether it's purchasing a home, saving for your child's future, or planning for your next vacation, we're with you every step of the way to navigate life's big decisions. Commercial Bank. Life made better.
Here's what I wonder, because everybody loves a winner, Caleb. What if this Vanderbilt program ends up being a perennial 6-win team season, and they're at least making a bowl game? They're going a little bit further, perhaps. And that, to me, would be a significant step in the right direction. I could see, you know what the most infuriating fans are to me? Are fans that are fans of Tennessee football and Kentucky basketball. And there's a lot of those. And I could see Nashville sports fans saying, Tennessee's playing ETSU, Vanderbilt's playing Alabama this weekend. I'm wearing my Vanderbilt shirt.
So this is twofold. What you're saying is possible, but it's as possible as anything happening in college football. Northwestern could become the class of the Big Ten in 50 years if things change. I mean, so that's why I would say you're crazy. Here's the steps of how this would have to happen. So what would Vanderbilt have to do to run the state of Tennessee and honestly be a power? Well, what are Vanderbilt's strongest? They're an academic elite school, but what are their three strongest subjects? Law, medicine, social sciences. Law and social sciences has a ceiling on how much money you can make. Even though lawyers are very, very successful, you're not going to become a trillionaire being a lawyer. It's just not going to happen. So medicine is the middle one. Here, now follow what I'm getting at here. Medicine, Vanderbilt's probably the school, not probably. It's a strong possibility that the person who discovers the cure for cancer one day comes from Vanderbilt, is it not? And is a hardcore Vanderbilt football fan.
Right. And listen, we just heard numbers this past week that Texas is paying $40 million to its football team. Well, let's just say a guy discovers the cure for cancer and he's a billionaire and he's a football fan. $40 million is nothing to him.
Yeah, and if he discovers a cure for cancer, he's going to be the first trillionaire. So, like, if he does that, and he's a Vanderbilt grad, and you're right, and he's a football fan, you don't think he could make Vanderbilt elite? Like, look, Elon Musk could do this with Rutgers if he wanted to. I just don't think Elon Musk cares that much about football, so he's not going to do it. But yeah, someone at Vanderbilt, you could easily see them do that, and they could turn Vanderbilt they could just buy championships. And in this NIL age, that's very strongly possible. And you're right. Not just only if Tennessee is playing ETSU and Vanderbilt's playing Alabama, but also, what if Tennessee goes through another decade of dysfunction? And say they have a decade of dysfunction at the same time, someone at Vanderbilt.
Well, let's what if this for a second. What if the rules got loosened with NIL and transfer portal and all that stuff? What if that happened in the last couple of years of Butch Jones when everybody knew it was going downhill, and then you had Jeremy Pruitt? I mean, how many prospects do you lose to Vanderbilt that can transfer easily that want to stay close to home, or do you just lose in recruiting because Tennessee stunk? I mean, Tennessee would have to open the door. Don't get me wrong. If Tennessee's winning 3 national championships every decade, it's not going to happen. But Tennessee would have to open the door. But while I'm high on Josh Heupel, and I think he can get things turned around at a championship level, it would be crazy for me to have the utmost confidence in him, wouldn't it? I mean, given where Tennessee's program's been the past 15 years?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and again, there could be things that happen to Tennessee that's out of Josh Heupel's control. You know this. You've covered how many coaches, Dave, how many coaches have you covered that you thought they were good coaches, but they were derailed because they took over a job at the wrong place at the wrong time? And I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I still think Mike Shula just was in a bad situation at Alabama, honestly.
I think he was a little slow. But, I mean, Lane Kiffin's an example. I think he would have had success at Tennessee. I don't know if it would have been elite success.
But USC was wrong place, wrong time, wasn't it? He went to USC.
That's a great point. He is the classic example throughout his career. I think he would have had success at Tennessee. I think considering what they had at Tennessee, he did have success, relatively speaking. I think that Southern California was a bad fit. I thought at the time, I said there's no way he should accept the job nor be offered the job. Didn't work out, and now things are working out at Ole Miss. Let's be honest. I mean, sure, they want to win a championship at Ole Miss, but if you're winning 10 games and making the college football playoff, which that's basically where they are, that's pretty good for Ole Miss. I mean, you're kind of maximizing things there, aren't you?
You are. And you are, if you're doing that enough, you're starting to build enough of a traditional base to where you maybe could get over the hump one day. You know what I mean? Like if you have enough success over a sustained period of time. I mean, look at Virginia Tech. Now, I know Virginia Tech is down in the dumps of the program right now, but they got Michael Vick. Frank Beamer did a great job building that into a very solid program. And you could theoretically see Virginia Tech now in the right environment with the right resources becoming a perennial power because of the way the program was built.
Let me ask you this, and let's make this our poll question. And I don't know how you want to phrase this. You can do it how you want. In 5 years, that's another recruiting cycle. So that's coming off of the Alabama win. 5-year recruiting cycle coming off that. What type of program can Vanderbilt be? Same old Vanderbilt, bowl team, or can they be a college football playoff contender or even a championship contender? I don't think anybody's going to go championship contender, but I'm telling you, they get a couple of more wins like they got against Alabama. That there's going to be people that are going to get more excited about that football program. And I'm just telling you that Vanderbilt found some sneaky ways to win championships in baseball. And I don't know if you can do this in football, but they found sneaky ways because of partial scholarship. I don't know if you can do things like that because they're a private school, but I could easily see Vanderbilt being – okay, let me ask you this. Could you see Vanderbilt being in Ole Miss's class where Ole Miss currently is? A 10-win season, and they're knocking on the door.
That seems difficult in 5 years. Now, theoretically, Vanderbilt already is in Ole Miss's class because Vanderbilt and Ole Miss was one of the protected SEC rivalries when the division split, funny enough. But I think that seems like a big that seems like a bit ambitious for Vanderbilt. I do think maybe one day. Again, there's a lot of factors that have to go into play for this to happen. There's so many. And I just don't think that can happen at Vanderbilt in 5 years. There are workarounds. Look, great programs find workarounds, but even the programs that find workarounds don't win championships. They go very, very far. I mean, the biggest story on the best case of this was what Jim Harbaugh and David Shaw did at Stanford, right? They were in that power I offense when the Pac-12 was all the rage was the finesse West Coast offenses and spread offenses, and that power I, nobody could handle it with Stanford, and Stanford would always just get the right quarterback, whether that be Andrew Luck, Kevin Hogan, or whatever. And they were going 10-2, 11-1 every year, and going to the Rose Bowl quite a few times, but they weren't in the class of like the most athletic teams. So even though they go 10-2 or 11-1, that one loss would be to a more athletic team that would beat the brakes off them by 30.
Well, then people get used to it. I think he won 3 games the next year.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so you can sustain some level of success. David Cutcliffe, we know, did at Duke. Dave Clawson did at Wake Forest for a little while at these academic institutions. But for instance, Northwestern, I think, is the standard for Vanderbilt. What Pat Fitzgerald had done was the standard, and that was the best they could do. Yes, Northwestern did win the Big Ten a couple times in the mid-90s, but that's a different time period. I think their best hope is to have some sort of like David Shaw level of early success at Nashville, but you have to sustain that for a period of like 10 years. And then if you keep doing it, then the ingredients fall into place. Because let's also not forget this. I'm going to bolster your point a little bit. If you show you can have success at that level, think about what Vanderbilt can sell to athletes. You're in the SEC. You're on TV every week. And you're going to play in the best conference, which will help your NFL case. And you're going to get a degree from Vanderbilt. I mean, those two things I think would stand out more than anything else if they started to have success. What is it about, like, you can't say if you're at Vanderbilt, you would be playing at a lower tier than Alabama. They're in the same conference.
Yep. No, I agree. Derek weighing in. I think y'all are selling yourself short of who and what Vanderbilt is. Just go see the Vanderbilt family is wealthiest family ever pre-industrial revolution. Yeah. I mean, we're just talking about.
Yeah, but Derek, they squandered all that wealth.
Yeah, but we're talking about a group of people that have the type of money that, like,
we're talking about new money, honestly. Someone coming into new money, inventing something that makes them a trillionaire.
Well, you and I think of, what do we spend money on? Something streaming so we can binge watch. That's the type of they would consider that type of money of $50 million in a football. It's just that is incredibly doable to me. So when I saw that Texas number, it definitely stood out to me. But then again, Colton says Dave's wildest take yet. Now, I will say this. This is not your James Franklin Vanderbilt team that played nobody non-conference, managed to slip into a bowl game. They are playing Virginia Tech. So I think they've got the right mindset as long as they don't fall short of a bowl game. I think that would be a step in the wrong direction. But could they win a couple of guys in the Vanderbilt area and the Nashville area? Yeah, I think they could. I think this in 5 years could be a program that is comparable to, let's say, Mississippi State or Missouri. I think it could be on that ilk. I don't think that it's going to be a bottom dweller, pathetic piece of junk football program forever. I just don't.
All right, here's a tougher question for you. What has a better chance? Here might be the biggest question. Who has a better chance of becoming a football power, Vanderbilt or Kentucky?
Wow. See, I think Kentucky would be perfectly fine just being a basketball power, and they don't really care about football. So,
but if Kentucky decided we want to go all in on being a football power, and so does Vanderbilt, who has a better chance of actually getting to that level?
Well, Vanderbilt.
Wow. You know what? I think I'm kind of with you on that.
I don't think that's close because of the money they could spend. If they're as a group, and everybody's different, so nobody's going to think the same thing as a group. But as a group, if they said, we're going to be a football power, and Kentucky said, no, we're going to be a football power, then, man, I've covered Kentucky football games, all-star games. There's no talent in that state. I mean, it makes Tennessee look like South Florida. And there's a good bit of talent in Nashville. So I don't think that's close. And the amount of money that they could spend isn't close either. I think if they both had that mindset that you just laid out, I think that Vanderbilt would leave Kentucky in the dust.
I totally agree. I totally agree.
You didn't
They
want to in the beginning, did you?
No, I think you're right. I think
Now,
you're right.
Ashley says this without Pavia this year, are we even having this conversation, though? I don't think so. No, you're not. But are we talking about Virginia Tech the way we do if they don't have a guy named Mike Vick? Probably not. So are we talking about Miami the way we do if they don't have a guy named Howard Schnellenberger? People change the course of programs. Is Diego Pavia that guy? I don't know, man. He beat the number one team and he's the quarterback at Vanderbilt, number one team in the nation. I never thought I would say that. Now, uh, Vanderbilt also has to be really serious about this because Colton says Vandy won't be a part of the super conferences anyway. Now, I don't know that I agree with that because I think that the SEC is going to look out for its original members. And I think Vanderbilt would be granted in, much like Northwestern would. You don't want a murderer's row of of a schedule. So you've got to have some teams in there that are beatable. So I think that I think Vanderbilt would make a super conference. Now, if Vanderbilt was the 2 and 3 win Vanderbilt team like we've seen in the past and not even hanging in games and those decisions were being made, then yes, they could get left out. But right now, I don't think you would leave them out.
No, you wouldn't leave them out, and they're not going to. This is the debate me and you have had for a while. I don't think charter members are leaving the SEC or the Big Ten. I think that, I don't even care if there's a super conference that's formed. Those charter schools are staying. They're safe no matter how bad they are going forward.
Who are the charter schools? You know, off the top of your head,
From the SEC?
that are still in the SEC.
Oh, yeah. Tennessee, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, Auburn, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, LSU, Vanderbilt, Kentucky. Those are the 10 charter schools of the SEC. They will never, ever be kicked out.
I'm okay with State. I don't think State's ever going to win a national championship, but I think they've got a lot of tradition. It's a neat place to watch a football game. It screams SEC. I'm cool with that. Vanderbilt's though the one that had better be playing at a high level when they go to super conference because I don't think they have anywhere near the tradition that some of these others have. It is time for Caleb to make us a little bit smarter. How about this day in Tennessee sports history? And it's brought to you by Sports Treasures.
This day in Tennessee sports history.
It's cool, baby. It's cool.
Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. The Dave Hooker Show with Caleb Calhoun. Off the Hook Sports.
Clarify. Colton asking, we were saying State wouldn't make it. No, I was saying State shouldn't make it. I would trim off the fat of the Big Ten and the SEC and make a really lean 32-team conference. But I believe Caleb's right. I'm not going to argue with him. I think the charter members of the SEC are going to be protected. So it's one thing that I think should happen, but I think will happen. Portions of the program, including this day in Tennessee sports history, brought to you by Sports Treasures, carrying over 5 million sports treasures and so much more. Follow on Facebook for the best sports memorabilia daily updates. Link is right down below. Sports Treasures TN on Facebook. Sports Treasures TN. Be sure and follow. What do we got this day in Tennessee sports history?
Today is the 1-year anniversary of Tennessee baseball capturing its first ever national title. They beat Texas A&M last year on this day 6-5 to win the national title and prove that Tony Vitello is running an elite program that we have to now say is probably the second best program going on right now in baseball because LSU just won their second national title in 3 years. So
Tennessee's next national championship will come in what sport?
If you make me bet, it's still baseball, but I'm going to say women's basketball. I like to go. I mean, if I were setting the odds, baseball would be the best odds, but I'm going to go women's basketball because I believe in what Kim Caldwell is doing, and those odds are a little bit smaller. So if I were to have to bet on it, that payout would be better, and I like to go a little bit on a limb.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard not to go with baseball, but I do like what Kim Caldwell has done. That's this day in Tennessee sports history, brought to you by Sports Treasures.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Ball collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Comment on the message board. I'm going to laugh if Vandy benches Pavia over academics this season. That would be pretty funny. But in all seriousness, when is the last time you've heard about a player missing a game or being suspended or doing anything extra in terms of academic issues?
It's been a long time, actually. They get players ready to go.
Okay, well, let me ask you this. Is that because, A, they're just better students?
No.
Okay.
No, I'll just say it. No.
Is that B, because they're protecting them more, or is it C, just nobody cares? They all realize that they're athletes and nobody's keeping an eye on it, and the NCAA is just further adept.
I think it's B. They figured out ways to make them pass. Things have gotten easier. They've created fake classes. That's what it is.